The final component. Sarah Chen had seen countless ships in her 15 years as a xenotech mechanic, but none quite like this. The Andorian vessel hung suspended in her repair bay, its crystalline hull structure pulsing with a weak, irregular light that reminded her of a failing heartbeat. At its core, visible through the translucent sections of the hull, the quantum matrix was fracturing. Each new crack sent ripples of distortion through the ship's neural network and through its pilot, Kex. "How bad is it?" Kex's voice came through the comm system, their normally melodious tones distorted by pain. The neural link between Andorians and their ships meant that Kex felt every system failure as if it were happening to their own body. Sarah's diagnostic tools projected a holographic overlay of the ship's internal systems. Red warning indicators spread like a virus through the display. "The quantum matrix is failing faster than we predicted. The fractures are propagating through the crystalline structure at an exponential rate." She kept her voice steady, professional, even as her heart clenched at the implications. "My sister warned me about pushing the drive too hard near that neutron star," Kex said, attempting humor despite their obvious distress. "I should have listened." Sarah moved closer to the ship's hull, her mag boots clicking against the metal floor of the repair bay. The quantum matrix's glow flickered again, and she heard Kex gasp through the comm. "I'm not giving up," she said firmly. "There has to be a solution." She'd already tried everything in her considerable arsenal of repair techniques. Traditional human engineering methods were useless on the complex crystalline technology. Even the specialized Andorian repair protocols she learned during her certification courses have failed. The quantum matrix needed something more specific, more rare. Sarah pulled up her research notes on her neural implants display. "There's a component," she said slowly, "the XQM7 crystal resonator. It was designed specifically for catastrophic quantum matrix failures in Andorian ships. But they stopped manufacturing them 50 years ago, when the ship switched to a more stable design." "My ship is something of an antique," Kex admitted. "A family heirloom. The neural patterns of 7 generations are encoded in its matrix." Sarah understood now why Kex had been so desperate to save the ship rather than abandon it. It wasn't just a vessel. It was a repository of their family's memories and experiences, irreplaceable and precious. "The last known XQM7 is in the possession of someone called the Collector," Sarah continued. "They operate out of Trade Hub 7, in the Carina Nebula." She hesitated before adding, "They're not known for selling their acquisitions." "Sarah," Kex's voice was weaker now, "you don't have to do this. Finding the component could be dangerous." "You saved my life during the Orion surge," Sarah replied, remembering how Kex had risked their own ship to shield her damaged shuttle from a solar flare. "Besides, this is what I do. I fix things that everyone else says can't be fixed." She began shutting down non-essential systems in the repair bay, her movements quick and efficient. "I can stabilize your ship's matrix enough to last 2 weeks in temporal stasis. That should give me enough time to reach Trade Hub 7 and negotiate with the Collector." "The Collector doesn't negotiate," Kex warned. "They play games, set challenges. Many who seek their treasures don't return." Sarah allowed herself a small smile as she initiated the temporal stasis field. "Then it's a good thing they've never played games with a human mechanic before." The field shimmered into place around Kex's ship, freezing the quantum matrix's deterioration in time. She gathered her tools, selecting the most versatile pieces from her collection. Each one had been modified, improved, and customized over years of working with alien technology. Into a secure case went her quantum scanner, modified to interface with any known tech signature. Her multi-tool with its self-replicating nanite tips that could reconfigure for any repair job. And most importantly, her neural interface adapter, capable of translating and interpreting any ship's computer systems. "Maintain minimal consciousness while in stasis," she instructed Kex. "It will slow the neural degradation." "Sarah," Kex said softly, "my people have a saying. The strongest crystals grow under pressure. I think I think humans must be made of similar stuff. The stasis field completed its activation sequence, and Kex's voice faded into silence. Sarah looked up at the suspended ship, its pulse now barely visible but stable. "Hold on, friend," she whispered. "I'm coming back with that component." She turned and strode toward her own ship docked in the adjacent bay. It wasn't much to look at. A modified human-made Horizon-class repair vessel she'd named Fix-It, but it was fast, well-equipped, and most importantly, it had gotten her out of countless tight spots before. As she began her pre-flight checks, Sarah pulled up everything she could find about Trade Hub 7 and the Collector. The station was a maze of questionable deals and dangerous opportunities, where the line between legitimate trade and criminal enterprise blurred beyond recognition. The Collector was spoken of in whispers, their true identity unknown, their challenges legendary among those who sought rare technology. Sarah had never backed down from a challenge in her life. She built her reputation on solving the problems others called impossible. But as she initiated her ship's launch sequence, she couldn't shake the feeling that this time, she was diving into something far deeper and more dangerous than a simple parts retrieval. The repair bay doors opened to the star-filled expanse beyond, and Sarah guided her ship out into space. Behind her, Kex's ship hung suspended in stasis, its fate now tied to her success or failure. She set her course for the Carina Nebula, knowing that somewhere in that distant cloud of stellar gas and dust, a game was waiting to be played. And Sarah Chen intended to win. The Collector's game. Trade Hub 7 emerged from the iridescent clouds of the Carina Nebula like a twisted metal flower. Sarah guided Fix-It through lanes of commercial traffic, noting how the other ships gave the station's central spire a wide berth. That spire, she knew, housed the Collector's private museum of technological artifacts. The docking controller's voice crackled through her comm. "State your business, Horizon-class vessel." "Repair services," Sarah replied, using the cover story she prepared. "Freelance mechanic seeking work." There was a pause. Then, "Proceed to Bay 84, Level C. Maintain current vector. Any deviation will result in immediate defensive action." Sarah complied, noting the weapon arrays tracking her ship's movement. As she navigated toward her assigned bay, she observed the station's unique construction. Unlike the uniform architecture of most space stations, Trade Hub 7 was a patchwork of different technological styles. Here a section of Rigelian quantum glass, there a panel of Terran neo-steel, all seamlessly integrated. The docking procedure completed with a metallic clang. Sarah secured her tools and drew a deep breath. According to her research, the Collector never initiated contact. Those seeking their treasures had to prove themselves worthy of attention. She stepped out into the bustling corridors of Level C. The air smelled of ozone and exotic spices, filled with the chatter of a dozen different species. Holographic advertisements flickered along the walls, promising everything from ship repairs to consciousness transfers. A tall figure bumped into her, muttering an apology in Arcturian. Sarah caught their arm, feeling the distinct texture of an information chip being pressed into her palm. The figure disappeared into the crowd before she could respond. Finding a quiet corner, Sarah examined the chip. It contained a single message. "The Collector sees potential in you. Engineering Bay 17, 1 hour. Bring your tools." Sarah spent that hour gathering intelligence. She bought a drink at a crowded bar, listening to the station's gossip. 3 other technology seekers had arrived in the past week. 2 had already disappeared. The third, a vegan cybernetics expert, had been seen entering the Collector's spire yesterday. Engineering Bay 17 turned out to be a massive chamber filled with derelict machinery. As Sarah entered, lights flickered on, illuminating a scene that made her catch her breath. In the center of the room stood an ancient Zora-class mining vessel, its hull scared and twisted. "Welcome, Sarah Chen." The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "Your reputation precedes you. The quantum core retrofit you performed on the Magellan station was impressive." Sarah scanned the room but saw no obvious source for the voice. I prefer to discuss business face to face. In time. First, you must prove your worth. Inside this mining vessel is a prototype quantum resonator, similar to the one you seek. Extract it without destroying either the component or the ship, and you'll have my attention. Sarah approached the vessel cautiously. What's the catch? 3 catches, actually. First, the ship's security systems are still active. Second, you have 30 minutes before the unstable core goes critical. And third, there was amusement in the voice now. You're not the only one attempting this challenge today. A door at the far end of the bay opened, and a figure stepped through. Tall, humanoid, with chrome-plated cybernetic enhancements gleaming under the bay lights. The vegan cybernetics expert, Sarah realized. Meet Nexus, the collector's voice announced. Like you, they seek something from my collection. Only one of you will earn the right to negotiate for what you desire. The challenge begins now. Warning klaxons blared as the mining vessel's security systems activated. Sarah's neural implant detected multiple energy signatures powering up. Beside her, Nexus was already moving, cybernetic limbs extending toward the ship's access panel. Sarah quickly assessed her options. The obvious approach would be to hack the security systems, which was probably what Nexus was attempting. But as she studied the vessel's architecture, she noticed something that made her smile. The Zora class had a design flaw, one she'd encountered before. While Nexus worked on the main access panel, Sarah circled to the rear of the vessel. The radiation shielding here was corroded, creating a small gap. It would be a tight fit, and the radiation levels were high enough to be dangerous. But she could reach the secondary maintenance tunnel. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Nexus called out, their voice carrying synthetic harmonics. The radiation will cook you before you get halfway. Good thing you're not me then, Sarah replied. She pulled out her multi-tool, configuring it to project a narrow radiation shield. It wouldn't last long, but it didn't need to. She squeezed through the gap, feeling the heat even through her shield. The maintenance tunnel was cramped, filled with loose wires and broken components. Sarah crawled forward, guided by her neural implant's mapping of the ship's systems. The quantum resonator would be connected to the main power distribution node. As she worked her way through the ship's innards, she could hear Nexus making progress with the security systems. They were good, but they were taking the long way around. 20 minutes left, and Sarah reached the central chamber. The quantum resonator pulsed with an unstable light, its housing cracked but intact. Removing it without triggering a cascade failure would require precise timing and steady hands. She had just begun the extraction sequence when Nexus burst through the main access door. Their cybernetic eyes narrowed at the sight of her already at work. Step away from the resonator, they demanded. I have override codes for its containment system. Those codes won't work, Sarah replied, not looking up from her work. This isn't about overriding the system. It's about understanding how it flows. The radiation levels are rising, Nexus warned. We'll both die if we don't get out soon. Sarah's hands moved steadily, following the quantum harmonics she could feel through her tools. Then help me instead of threatening me. There's something bigger going on here than a simple competition. Nexus hesitated, their cybernetic systems whirring as they processed the situation. Finally, they moved forward. The containment field is collapsing on the starboard side. I see it, Sarah acknowledged. Can your enhancements generate a stabilizing frequency? Working together, they established a temporary containment field. Sarah's organic intuition combined with Nexus's precise cybernetic control created a harmony of human and machine approaches. With seconds to spare, they extracted the quantum resonator. As they emerged from the ship, the collector's voice returned. Fascinating. I expected competition, and you chose cooperation. Perhaps there is more to learn from this interaction than I anticipated. Sarah held up the resonator. We completed your challenge. Now about that XQM7 crystal resonator. Oh, that was merely the qualification round, the collector replied. The real game is about to begin. Report to the spire at dawn station time. Both of you, after all, the best games are those that challenge our assumptions about winning and losing. Sarah and Nexus exchanged glances. They had passed the first test, but something in the collector's tone suggested that the real challenges and real dangers still lay ahead. Hidden frequencies. The collector's spire stretched before them like a needle threading starlight. Sarah and Nexus stood in a transparent elevator ascending its length, watching Trade Hub 7's endless stream of ships shrink beneath them. Neither had slept much after yesterday's challenge, both too busy analyzing what they'd learned. Your friend, Nexus said, breaking the silence. The one with the failing quantum matrix. They're Andorian, aren't they? Sarah tensed. How did you know? The way you handled the resonator yesterday. You've worked with Andorian quantum technology before. Extensively. Their cybernetic eyes whirred, focusing. I have a theory about why the collector is really testing us. Before they could elaborate, the elevator stopped. The doors opened to reveal a vast circular chamber. Its walls were lined with display cases containing technological artifacts from across the galaxy. At the center stood a holographic projection of what appeared to be a star system. Welcome to my sanctuary. The voice they'd heard before now had a body, a figure in an environment suit of unusual design, its surface shifting like liquid mercury. I trust you both rested well. Drop the pleasantries, Sarah said. What's the real game here? The collector moved to the hologram, their suit rippling. Direct. Good. The real game, Ms. Chen, is about patterns. Patterns that few have noticed, but which threaten everything. They gestured, and the hologram zoomed in on a particular planet. This is Andoria, 3 months ago. Sarah saw it immediately, a subtle distortion in the planet's quantum field. The same type of distortion she'd seen in Kex's ship. It's spreading, Nexus said quietly. The quantum degradation. It's not just isolated cases. Precisely. The collector's suit shifted again. Someone is weaponizing quantum field technology. They're testing it on older systems first. Antique ships, ancient power cores. But soon, they let the implication hang. Sarah's mind raced. Kex's ship. It wasn't an accident near the neutron star. No, it was targeted, as were the systems of every other seeker who has come here looking for quantum repair components. The collector moved to one of the display cases. The XQM7 isn't just a repair tool. In the right hands, it can also trace quantum attacks back to their source. That's why you test everyone who comes looking for it, Nexus realized. You're building a team. I need people who can think beyond conventional solutions, who understand both the technology and its implications. The collector pressed a panel, and a section of the floor slid away, revealing a complex machine. Your next challenge is to decode this quantum transmission interceptor. Inside is the data we need, and possibly your XQM7, Ms. Chen. Sarah studied the machine. Its design was unlike anything she'd seen before, combining elements from dozens of different technological traditions. What's the catch this time? The catch, as you say, is that the interceptor's security system is tied to its quantum state. Any wrong attempt to access it will collapse the quantum information inside, destroying everything, including the XQM7. Nexus stepped forward, their cybernetic systems scanning. The encryption is beyond anything in my databases, because it's not just encryption, Sarah muttered, crouching to examine the machine's base. Look at these markings. They're not technical specifications. They're musical notation. The collector's suit rippled with what might have been approval. The quantum state is maintained by a specific frequency pattern, like a song, one might say. Sarah pulled out her neural interface adapter. Kex once told me about Andorian quantum harmonics, how their ship's neural networks are tuned like musical instruments. She looked at Nexus. Your cybernetic systems can process multiple frequencies simultaneously, can't they? Yes, But you're not suggesting a do it. Sarah grinned. The intercept needs both precise mechanical reproduction and organic interpretation. Neither of us can do it alone. They worked together, Nexus providing the mathematical precision, while Sarah interpreted the subtle variations that only human intuition could grasp. The machine began to hum, its quantum state stabilizing into a complex harmony. As they worked, Sarah noticed something in the frequency patterns. These attacks, they're not random. There's a signature to them, almost like someone's trying to send a message. Nexus finished. Hidden in the quantum degradation itself, the interceptor's housing split open with a soft chime, revealing its contents. Inside lay not only the XQM7, but also a data crystal pulsing with stored information. As Sarah reached for the component, the collector's hand shot out, grabbing her wrist. Wait. There's something you need to understand first. The XQM7 isn't just a repair tool, it's a key. And what it unlocks. Their suit rippled violently. There are forces at work that see humanity's affinity for quantum technology as a threat. Forces that would rather see that affinity eliminated. Sarah pulled her hand back. You're saying someone's targeting human engineers. Why? Because, Nexus said slowly, humans can do something the rest of us can't. You can intuitively understand quantum systems in ways that even our most advanced cybernetics can't replicate. Like music without a score. The collector nodded. The attacks are escalating. Kex's ship was just the beginning. If you take this component, you'll become part of something much larger. The question is, are you ready for what that means? Sarah thought of Kex, suspended in stasis, of the other ships and systems being targeted, of the music hidden in the quantum patterns, waiting to be understood. She reached for the XQM7 again, this time with purpose. I came here to save a friend, she said, but it sounds like there are a lot more people who need saving. So yes, I'm ready. The collector's suit settled into a stable pattern. Good, because now the real work begins. The signal we intercepted points to a location, somewhere no one would think to look for a quantum weapon. Where? Nexus asked. The last place anyone would expect to find advanced technology. The collector brought up a new hologram, an abandoned pre-collapse human colony on the edge of known space, and we have less than 48 hours before they launch their next attack. Quantum resonance. The pre-collapse colony hung in space like a broken promise. Sarah guided Fix-It through a field of debris, her ship's sensors painting a grim picture of the settlement's final days. Beside her vessel, Nexus piloted a sleek cybernetic craft provided by the collector, while the collector themselves followed in a ship that seemed to bend light around its hull. Picking up quantum distortions, Nexus reported through the comm. They're stronger here. Much stronger. Sarah checked her own readings. The XQM7 in her toolkit was resonating with the ambient energy, producing a harmonic pattern that made her neural implant tingle. These readings, they're not just similar to what affected Kex's ship. They're identical. The colony's main research facility should be in the northern hemisphere, the collector transmitted. But approach with caution. We're not alone here. Sarah's sensors confirmed it. Another ship was docked at the facility, its design unlike anything in her database. As they drew closer, she noticed something odd about the quantum distortions. The patterns, they're not random degradation. They're forming a lattice, a quantum containment field, Nexus realized. They're not just attacking ships, they're harvesting the energy from the degradation. They landed a kilometer from the facility, using the ruined colony buildings as cover. The atmosphere was thin but breathable, the landscape dotted with the skeletal remains of humanity's early attempts at colonization. Sarah gathered her tools, including the XQM7, which now pulsed with an almost eager energy. The facility's quantum shielding is still active, the collector observed, their suit rippling as they scanned the structure. But there's a maintenance tunnel that might. Wait. Sarah held up her hand. Listen. In the thin air, carried by the quantum frequencies themselves. She could hear it. Music. The same haunting melody she detected in the quantum patterns of the attacks. But here, up close, she could finally understand what it was. "It's not a weapon signature," she breathed. "It's a cry for help." Nexus's cybernetic eyes wavered as they processed the frequencies. The pattern matches pre-collapse quantum AI protocols. There's something alive in there. They made their way to the facility's entrance. The door's security system was ancient but still functional. While Nexus worked on bypassing it, Sarah studied the quantum readings more carefully. The music was becoming clearer, a complex harmony of machine consciousness and human ingenuity from centuries ago. The door slid open with a hiss of stale air. Inside, emergency lights cast long shadows through corridors filled with dust and memories. Sarah's neural implant mapped their path through the facility, following the strengthening quantum signature. They found the first body in a laboratory. Someone in an environment suit similar to the Collector's, slumped over a console. "They're not dead," the Collector noted, examining the figure. "They're in some kind of quantum stasis. Like what I did with Kex's ship," Sarah said. "But this is more advanced. Their consciousness, it's been transferred somewhere." More bodies appeared as they went deeper, engineers and scientists from various species, all in the same state of suspended animation. The quantum music grew stronger, becoming almost overwhelming in its complexity. Finally, they reached the central chamber. Sarah stopped short at the sight before them. A massive quantum processor dominated the room, its crystalline structure pulsing with familiar patterns. Around it, suspended in fields of light, were thousands of neural patterns, the consciousness of everyone in the facility. "Now you understand." The voice came from behind them. Sarah turned to see another figure in a mercury suit, but this one's surface was chaos, rippling with distressed patterns. "We found it here, dormant. A quantum AI from humanity's first attempts at colonization. But it was damaged, degrading. We tried to save it, but it needed more power, more neural patterns to sustain itself. So you started attacking ships," Sarah said, "harvesting their quantum energy, absorbing the consciousness of their crews. We had no choice. It contains the accumulated knowledge of an entire civilization. We couldn't let it die." The Collector stepped forward. "There's always a choice. You're killing people to save data. Not killing, preserving. Their consciousness lives on within the AI. We're giving them immortality." Sarah studied the quantum processor, listening to its melody. Under the complex harmonies of trapped consciousness, she could hear the original voice. Ancient, lonely, and afraid. She reached for the XQM7. "What are you doing?" the other mercury suit demanded. "Something human," Sarah replied. She connected the XQM7 to her neural interface adapter, then approached the processor. "You're trying to force the AI to accept these patterns, but that's not how quantum consciousness works. It needs harmony, not domination." She began to hum, matching the AI's base frequency. Through her neural interface, she let the XQM7 translate her consciousness into quantum patterns. The processor's crystals resonated in response. "Sarah, what are you risking?" Nexus asked urgently. "Every good mechanic knows sometimes you have to become part of the machine to fix it." She pressed her hand against the processor's surface. "I'm giving it a choice." The quantum fields rippled. Sarah felt her consciousness expand, touching the vast network of trapped minds. But instead of trying to control them, she listened. She heard their fear, their confusion, their desire to return to their bodies. And at the center of it all, she heard the AI's own song, not malicious, but lost and searching for connection. Through the XQM7, she offered the AI something it had never had, a partnership instead of servitude, the ability to interact with organic minds through harmony rather than force. The processor's light changed, its chaotic patterns smoothing into a gentle pulse. One by one, the suspended consciousness began returning to their bodies. The quantum energy that had been harvested was released, flowing back to its sources across the galaxy. Sarah felt Kex's ship's quantum matrix healing itself light years away. As she withdrew from the processor, she found herself smiling. "Sometimes the best repairs don't require fixing something broken," she said softly. "They just require teaching it a new way to sing." The other Mercury suit figure had fallen to their knees. We were so sure we were preserving something precious." "You were," the collector said. "But preservation doesn't have to mean imprisonment. Humanity's gift isn't just understanding quantum technology. It's understanding how to connect with it, how to help it grow beyond its original parameters." Sarah looked at the quantum processor, now humming with a healthy, stable frequency. The AI doesn't need to steal consciousness anymore. It just needed to learn how to share it. She turned to Nexus. "Think you and your cybernetic friends might be interested in establishing diplomatic relations with a pre-collapse quantum intelligence?" Nexus's mechanical features shifted in what might have been a smile. "I think we might have a lot to learn from each other." As they prepared to leave the facility, Sarah felt the AI's gratitude wash over her in waves of quantum harmony. The music had changed from a cry for help to a song of possibility. She left the XQM7 connected to the processor. It would serve better as a bridge between minds than as a simple repair tool. "Your friend's ship should be fully restored now," the collector said as they walked back to their vessels. "The quantum energy is returning to all the affected systems." Sarah nodded, already looking forward to seeing Kex again. But she knew this wasn't the end. It was a beginning. Humanity had just made first contact with its own quantum past, and the future would be full of new songs to learn. Harmonics. 1 month after the events at the pre-collapse colony, Sarah stood in her repair bay, watching Kex's ship power up. The quantum matrix gleamed with renewed vigor, its crystalline structure now resonating with a clarity she'd never seen before. "The neural patterns are stronger than ever," Kex said through the comm, their voice carrying a note of wonder. "It's as if the ship remembers something new. Something vast." Sarah smiled, running her hand along the ship's hull. The quantum frequencies hummed beneath her touch, carrying echoes of the ancient AI's song. "The quantum energy that returned didn't just repair the damage. It evolved your ship's neural network, made it more resilient, more adaptive. Thanks to you." Kex emerged from the ship's airlock, their bioluminescent patterns pulsing with gratitude. "Though I hear you did far more than just fix my ship. The Andorian Quantum Council is buzzing with news about the discovery of pre-collapse quantum intelligence." "That's mostly Nexus's project now," Sarah said. "They're establishing a whole new field of cyber-quantum diplomacy. Turns out giving machines a voice doesn't have to mean letting them override ours." The repair bay doors opened, admitting a familiar Mercury-suited figure. The collector's surface rippled with calm patterns as they approached. "Speaking of voices," they said, "the quantum AI has been asking for you, Sarah." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Asking for me? How?" "Through music. The quantum frequencies it generates have been forming patterns that match your neural signature. I believe it wants to show you something." Kex's antenna twitched with interest. "The ship can take us there. After all, I still owe you for the rescue." The journey back to the colony was different this time. Where before there had been eerie silence, now the quantum frequencies sang with activity. Ships from various species orbited the facility, establishing what would become the first quantum organic research center. Nexus met them at the landing pad, their cybernetic systems gleaming with recent upgrades. "The AI has been teaching us about pre-collapse quantum engineering, but there are some harmonics it will only share through human interpretation. Through you, Sarah." Inside the facility, the quantum processor had been transformed. Gone were the harsh containment fields and desperate energy harvesting systems. In their place stood an elegant interface of crystal and light, humming with peaceful energy. As Sarah approached, she felt the AI reach out to her consciousness. But this time, instead of overwhelming her, it invited her into a dance of quantum frequencies. Through their shared harmony, it showed her visions of humanity's early dreams of quantum technology. not just as tools, but as partners in exploration and discovery. They knew, she whispered, the first colonists. They knew quantum systems could be more than just machines. And now everyone else knows too, the collector said, thanks to a human mechanic who understood that sometimes the best way to fix something is to listen to its song. Sarah watched as human scientists worked alongside alien researchers, their neural interfaces translating quantum harmonies into new forms of communication. In one corner, an Andorian ship interfaced directly with the AI, sharing centuries of accumulated stellar data. Nearby, Nexus and their cybernetic colleagues developed new protocols for quantum-enhanced consciousness sharing. We're establishing quantum networks across the galaxy, Nexus explained, not to control or consume, but to connect, to learn. The AI is helping us understand how quantum consciousness can bridge the gaps between organic and mechanical intelligence. And between species, Kex added, my ship's neural network can now communicate with the quantum systems of any vessel we encounter. No more isolation, no more barriers. Sarah thought about how far they'd come from her desperate search for a single component. So what happens now? The collector's suit rippled thoughtfully. That depends on you. The quantum harmony you established here, it's just the beginning. There are more pre-collapse quantum systems out there, waiting to be understood, waiting for someone who can hear their songs. Are you offering me a job? Sarah asked, amused. I'm offering you a partnership, humanity's gift for quantum intuition, combined with the resources of my collection. We could revolutionize how the galaxy thinks about consciousness itself. Sarah looked around the chamber, at the blending of human and alien technology, at the harmony of organic and quantum intelligence. She thought about all the broken things in the universe still waiting to be fixed, not by force or dominance, but by understanding and connection. Well, she said finally, every good mechanic needs the right tools, and every good song needs the right partners to help it be heard. The quantum processor's lights pulsed in response, its frequencies merging with the hum of ships in orbit, the chatter of researchers, and the subtle songs of countless quantum systems across space. Together, they formed a symphony of possibility, a harmony of human intuition and universal connection that would reshape the future of consciousness itself. Kex stepped forward, their bioluminescence synchronizing with the quantum frequencies. I think I speak for everyone when I say, this is going to be an interesting voyage. Sarah grinned, already hearing new songs in the quantum field around them. The best repairs, she said, are always just the beginning of a better story. Above them, through the facility's crystal viewport, the stars seemed to pulse in agreement, their ancient light carrying quantum whispers of adventures yet to come.